This is Karen Waksman, founder of Retail MBA. And in this particular segment, we're going to be covering how to get your products into chain stores fast. Now, if you've ever tried to sell to a chain stores, you'll probably be wondering what I'm talking about, because it isn't fast to get a product into a store. But on occasion, there are things that you can do to help move things along. So if you're not getting any responses from buyers, or you're really getting stuck, I'm going to give you one strategy that I use. It's not always my favorite strategy, but it is a strategy if I'm getting stuck, or I want to move forward, or I want to get my products into chain stores much faster than usual. So the way that I do it is that I will actually reach out to the assistant buyer, and I will ask them to set me up with an appointment for vendor day. So let me explain these two things. So first of all, if you don't know this, all buyers start out as assistant buyers. That's usually how it works in the chain store business. They usually have to go through some training process, so they all start out as assistants, and then ultimately they become buyers. So there's always an assistant buyer around for the buyer. So just know that. So what I'll do is I will actually reach out to the assistant buyers when I want to get a meeting for something called vendor day. So what's vendor day? Vendor day is the day of the week or month or quarter that a chain store buyer will schedule time where people who want to be vendors fly into the corporate office and ultimately try and sell their products to them. So it's a day where 10 vendors will come in every 15 to 30 minutes and pitch their products to that buyer. And then ultimately, if the buyer likes that product, they will actually get them, probably a purchase order and move forward. So the key here is that you can get a meeting with a chain store buyer during one of these vendor days. And so the way to get a meeting at vendor day is to call the assistant buyer. You don't call the buyer for this, you call the assistant buyer. So you got to figure out who the assistant buyer is, and then ultimately reach out to them and say, hey, I would like to be part of your next vendor day. And then they a lot of times will get you on the schedule. And that's a quick way of getting your products in front of chain stores and ultimately in front of the chain store buyers, and hopefully they'll like your product and will buy your product. Now, I actually try and avoid vendor day typically because if I can actually have a meeting with a buyer on a one-on-one basis that's not on the same day as all my competitors, I'd rather do that. I'd rather have sole focus and energy from that buyer. And when they're meeting with 10 other potential vendors, it's not always the best situation, right? Because they're not always focused on me. So I will always use my strategies and my tactics to get products in stores, the tactics that I explain in Retail MBA, my program. But ultimately, vendor day is one way that you can get a products in stores fairly quickly, because you can actually streamline the approach, get a meeting with that buyer for their next vendor day. And they do these fairly often, right? So that's the good news, because again, they're always looking for new, interesting, innovative products. So if you want to get your products into a chain store fast and in front of that buyer, that's the quickest way to do it. You have to get a meeting with the buyer. You have to get a buyer to take a look at your product, and that's one way of doing it. So anyways, I hope that provides value. This is Karen Waksman with Retail MBA. If you want to learn more about how the entire process of getting a product into a store works, please check out Retail MBA, my actual program. Otherwise, please leave your comments below. I hope this provides value, and please be on the lookout for the additional content that I create. Thanks.